Hi, this is Sean,
And this is Isaac.
and this channel is called Wolf Dog Moon. And today we're going to be doing a kind of moratorium on Magic the Gathering and slash review of the card game itself. And if you like this kind of content, consider subscribing to our channel, smash that like button, and ring the bell for notifications so you don't miss out on our next video. And Myra right here is joining us for this video. She just sniffed the cards, and I gotta interpret her opinion a little bit later. So, and just comment down below. This one might be a little bit of a, to some people, it might be controversial, or it might just be something that challenges their opinion. And you're welcome to leave it down below, your opinion and stuff. Just be friendly about it, and let's get into this. Okay, so Magic the Gathering, the card game. Now, my history with the game, I remember when it first came out, I was primarily playing Dungeons and Dragons at the time, and this was back in the 90s. And I remember when this game came out, I initially right away saw it as something that would be kind of expensive of a hobby to get into. And although it had some cool aspects to it, right initially I saw that you'd be chasing after these certain cards, and if you didn't have those cards, unlike, for example, a game like chess where both players are essentially on equal footing, I saw this game as something, if you, it come down to whether you could afford it or not, and that could be the difference between you winning or losing. And so back then I was playing Dungeons and Dragons, and already I was playing a hobby that was considered weird and different, and and I liked that more, so I stuck with that. But later, as I grew up and after college and stuff, I would get gift cards from family members around the holidays, and so I usually use those gift cards to invest in something like Magic the Gathering, with the idea that, well, it was gift money anyway. So the first set that I invested in was Scars of Mirrodon, and also Knights versus Dragons dual deck. So my history goes back to around that time. So I just included in this video here some of the products that I've accumulated over the years. I pretty much would get a lot, definitely would get, like, originally they were called fat packs, which would include these booklets that I thought was cool that would come with it, and also some of the it came with the box, which that you could store your cards in, and like a spin down counter, which was really just a D20 dice from Dungeons and Dragons. And then it came up with this cool, which I like these because it would provide kind of a lot of the flavor, because for me, these kind of, just like Dungeons and Dragons, it's the actual settings and actual concept of the it's not just the card game itself is important, it's also in conjunction with the story that revolves around the cards. So those type of things were always important to me. And so I've gotten a lot of the sets, like I've got these are just a short example, Magic Origins and 2015 core set, and some of these other ones, the Cons of Takir, and then some others which I didn't include in this. And then I've got invested, every year I would be investing in different sets that I thought were cool, and I would go to the local game shop and try to purchase packs and stuff and to get involved. And I also would watch some of the competitive Magic on YouTube, and so that's just to give you a brief history. I don't want this video to be too long, and I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of my history. And then I also invested in a lot of the Commander pre-constructed decks, and then decks like the Guilds of Ravnica pre-constructed decks, and then some of the dual decks. Now I got my son over here, and primarily I've played with him. So early on when he was younger, we would try to play the game, and what I found with this game, and it's one of the reasons why this is a moratorium, I stopped purchasing Magic the Gathering. So if that's something that bothers you, I don't see myself ever investing in this game ever again. And so I just want to make that clear. So if that's something that bothers you, I guess you can either stick around to the end of the video and see what else I have to say, or you can check out or whatever. But I don't purchase anything for this game now, and I don't see myself ever purchasing anything in this game again. Now, I will say that early on when I was playing with my son, and there's a lot of headaches with this game, not only in terms of how much it costs to invest in this, because most of the cards, they end up being very kind of like garbage, where they don't do much, and they always feel underpowered unless you go and pay for these expensive ones, where now that you get to play the game like it should be played. Whereas one of my pet peeves with this game, and to the point where I'm done even purchasing anything for this, is that they make the cards so stunted that the gameplay is stunted. And in addition to that, you also have these mechanics that they add, where you have to, every set comes out with these mechanics and keywords and stuff, and so you have to know not only the old keywords, but you have to learn these new keywords. So it's constantly like they're coming out with a new iteration, where once again it's like you have to go back to school to learn the new keywords, and now you have to invest in just doing that, and it feels like a headache every time you go to play. We found that we'd constantly have to look up, okay, what is this actually saying? Like the way the cards, the languages it uses, the sentence structure and stuff, the type of English, the grammar, it tends to be not direct in some way, or not consistent. Like they'll have older stylings of the way that they use the grammar, and then they come out with modern versions, brand new cards, where it expects you to already know all this information, and that it just assumes that you would know all this information, and it starts to become a real headache, where you're frustrated. You constantly hit these hiccups as you're playing. And in addition, similarly, and if you've seen my basic fantasy review, you'll understand what I'm getting at. I would encourage you to go through our channel and find our basic fantasy, where I compare it to something such as 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and how some of the criticisms that I have for the 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, and some of the more recent iterations of it, those similar criticisms I have for this game, and even more so. Like, this game is heavy. This Magic the Gathering is so heavily monetized to the point where it feels predatory. It is constantly changing which cards you can use and which cards you can't use. They're coming out with these cards that they know will get banned, and they're putting them out and pushing them anyway, knowing that they can just ban them later, and they will ban them. And so to me, that's predatory. And it got to the point where I said, you know what, enough is enough with this card game. Now, I will say that some of aspects of the game can be fun, such as what I'm including here. Like if you play Commander, for example, in its more organic form, which is kind of it's like an agreement between the other players you're going to play with. You have to have a similar mindset in order to make it fun. It's an unofficial format that Wizards of the Coast is supporting because they can monetize it, but it has an unofficial feel where it's really just an agreement to have fun, and that's what I liked about it. And so I had invested in some of these pre-constructed Commander decks, and then I also had some of these Guilds of Ravnica. That particular those pre-constructed decks were pretty cool because you could say, especially if you just used it right out of the box and you played and with somebody, like I played with my son, and now you're that guild and I'm with this guild, and you see if you can win. There's something cool about that, and it just adds, similar to the Commander deck, it's about flavor, and it's also about an agreement that the idea is that you're going to have fun. Okay, and then some of the other decks that you would think would do that, such as these, you got goblins versus like merfolk or whatever, which is neat, but it's limited what you can actually do with these cards. They put such kind of generic cards in here that are stunted in a lot of ways. They make sure stunted cards go in here so that you get a stunted experience, and that's the best way that I could explain. It feels stunted and stilted whenever you're getting something like this when it shouldn't, and so there's that. So, and Isaac, you can chime in. I don't know, like a lot of times so for example, I would say that this is something they did well, and they, with these Commander decks, because it has an unofficial feel, that we've played in like the local game store against other people, and it was fun with these. But the idea was to have fun, and so although there was a competitive aspect to it, the driving force was to have fun, and it played out that way. Now, everything else about the game, the competitive aspects and the chasing the cards and the predatory practices that the company does, the Wizards of the Coast or whatever, is way too much of a headache. It's at the point it's devolved to something where they're pushing cards that were never supposed to be allowed. I think last I heard, because I keep track of, for example, the professor, I watch his videos sometimes just to see what he's saying about it, and I guess they have the original Power 9, which included like Black Lotus and cards like that. They can't release those because they have like a special vintage list in order to maintain the value for the intense collectors of those original cards, and so they're supposed to, it's an agreement where they can never release those cards. But now they're going to release them as a proxy or something, which proxies you can't use. But that's what I mean. It's like predatory. And it's at the point where, okay, it felt like you were putting up with there was always going to be some predatory practices with these card games, because the idea is for the company to make money. But there should be kind of limits to how far you go as a company, to where you're just, it's so predatory and about making money above all else that it's not only is it at the not fun level, it's at I'm done with this and I'm not putting up with this anymore. And I feel like I've broken an addiction in terms of Magic the Gathering, and I'm glad that I did. So the other thing I would say, that the game, ever since when I first got into it, which was back around the Scars of Mirrodon I feel like the game peaked with Innistrad, the original Innistrad, which was the perfect blend of these cool dynamics and flavor. With the cards, you have cards that you flip over, and then you have these epic characters associated with it, like Liliana of the Vale, and you had Garuk and all these other people, and they're in this kind of sort of like pilgrim style Salem lot setting, and like the Salem witch trials, and it had all the makings of an excellent set in terms of the fun and also the flavor. And then the power of the cards, they didn't feel stilted and stunted, and like you're playing with a gimped version of the game, to the point where it's just become something predatory. But I think the game has just gone down the hill from there, and I also feel that it's jumped the shark a number of times, to the point where it might always be around in a certain sense, but I'm done with it. Like, I feel, especially like, for example, where they came out with a set with dinosaurs and pirates, that to me, that's jumping the shark. You've lost sight of what the game was originally intended, and you've lost the game at the concept level. You have dragons that can fly and breathe fire, and then you have these goofy dinosaurs. It's silly, it's stupid, it feels predatory in the sense that they're going after anybody and anyone that they could. They're gonna come out with pink, bunny rabbits and Barney the dinosaur and silly stuff, whatever it takes to get somebody to plunk their money down without any reason in terms of how it affects the overall game and the community, and also its replay value, or how the game feels. So this review is very much a moratorium. It's very much a money sink, where you get to the point where it's enough is enough. It's a headache, and I've actually found some enjoyment in other collectible card games, some of which didn't really stand the test of time, like Force of Will. But lately I've been collecting Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and I find Yu-Gi-Oh a lot more fun. And my son and I have played it, and instantly we're like, oh, this is fun, and it's competitive and cool at the same time. But every time we played, what do you think, Isaac? Like, every time we played Magic, there was this sense of like, walk away with a headache.
I'd say this game can be really slow-paced for how the mechanics are, and just getting through the match for like knowing what the language is, and like the resource-based aspect of it can make it kind of slow.
I'm glad you said that too, because the other thing that it's so painfully obvious is the resources. The company knows that this game is resource based. So for example, you need certain lands to cast certain spells of the cards, and they make these special lands that basically allow you to get extra turns and get all these get ahead of the other player who doesn't have those lands. But they make the lands just as a basis to play at a whatever level, competitive level. They make them super expensive, and to the point of, okay, this is just way too predatory. And hold on one second, please. So I was at 19 minutes, so I just wanted to start it over here. But I'm going to move on to my final thoughts, because for me, this is just a moratorium of the game. I keep the cards that I have, and I have memories attached to these certain cards and stuff. And like I said, my son and I have played, and I've also played in game stores and stuff, and I've collected them for around 10 years now. And what I found is that there's a point where this game has devolved too far, and where it's like enough is enough. It's time to move on. And I'll keep these cards because they have cool artwork. Some, not all of the cards, but there's cool artists here. They worked really hard on the artwork. And so most of these cards I don't even use and probably never would. And that's also a headache. I keep them in these binders and I'll look through them every once in a while. And I mostly look at them for the artwork, and I was like, okay, this is a cool piece of artwork. I've constructed pauper decks where you self-limit which cards that you can use, and I found that could be fun too. So I've tried all these different ways to try to make the game fun. So such as, like I said, the pauper and self-limiting what you can do, and then self-limiting to these commander EDH friendly formats, and then something like these Guilds of Ravnica pre-constructed decks. So I found some fun there, but that's not really most of the game. That's just the casual aspect where you're trying to self-limit yourself because you can either A can't afford to dump the money in to get the cards that will be competitive and the ones you really want, or B, it's just you can't keep up with these other formats that they have and the rules and which cards they ban. It's like a part-time or a full-time job just to keep up with, oh, this card got banned, and oh, they're thinking of banning this card, or so why would I want to invest in that card that could be potentially banned? And they're actually designing, and I have proof, and I'm not going to cite the proof here, but I just have over the years my own research. I've proved to myself that they create cards knowing that they're going to ban them later, so that people will chase those cards. They break the format and they shatter people's, they attack you at a certain psychological level, and then they ban those cards to try to make people happy again, but they made their money first. And so I have the proof of that. I'm not gonna go into it. This review would be 6 hours long or whatever, but if you've played the game, you probably know what I mean. And you at least, there's probably a card that you have where it's, or like, I'll give you one example, Mox Opal. So I have that card, and all of a sudden it was banned. And it's like, to me, that's one of the coolest cards they ever made. And so they're banning the cool cards. They're attacking whatever they can to make $1. And then they're bringing in silly things, dinosaurs and fairy tales and stuff. The original aspect to this card game was a little bit more of its roots were more like they had a philosophy at the concept stage, and so it had its own niche in terms of that. And now they're just gonna shove anything and everything into this game, Transformers and Walking Dead characters. I don't care about any of that stuff. And to me, enough with the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but for me, I don't see myself ever purchasing another Magic the Gathering card ever again. I think this game could be fun, but you have to self-limit to make it fun. And anything that you really kind of have to self-limit shouldn't really be something that you would want to heavily invest in. Self-limiting stuff, it's like, oh, we're gonna play this game that I paid a lot of money for, but we're only gonna play it this one certain way, so it can be fun. So if you're playing at a competitive level and you can afford to just focus on the cards you need, then this game, and you can afford to do it, and that's something you enjoy doing, and you're not looking to hang on to the cards or whatever, and then this would be a game for you. But overall, my review for this game, I think maybe at one point in time, like I said, I would say at the Innistrad they peaked, and ever since then, that if I was to give this a grade, I would say the grade is going down. I would give this game like a D plus, C minus, where you're gonna the playing it is the amount of fun that you can squeeze out of this game at this point is not worth the headaches that it entails in order to do that. So, any final thoughts for you, Isaac? Or
well, I'd say it's a problem when like the regular person's rules that people can come up with are more fun than the actual official rules to play the game by Wizards of the Coast. And I'd also say that this game really isn't inviting to a beginner that wants to play a game like this, as it's kind of like a gamble, or kind of having to gamble for getting the good cards, and most of the time you're gonna get the crappy cards, and even if you do get the good cards, they could ban it. So
alright, so that's our review for Magic the Gathering. Me myself after 10 years, I would not recommend this game, even after trying to make it. I've worked hard to try to make this game worth investing in and fun and stuff, but I wouldn't. It's funny, it's like now I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. I would say that with the caveat that if you, like I said earlier in the video, if you can self-limit what you're going to do, and you know how to do that, and then also, or if you can afford to play at a competitive level, and you're willing to be able to get your hands on the cards by any means necessary that you can, then obviously this game would be continue to be something for you. But overall, I wouldn't recommend this game anymore to someone. And so we hope that this video finds you having an amazing day. Comment down below what you think about Magic the Gathering, if this is still one of your favorite games and why, and let us know. And although you never know, I'm the type of person that if you can make a solid case, I'll listen to you. But I'm gonna call this a moratorium. I'm never gonna purchase cards for this game ever again. And so hope that this video finds you having an awesome day, and we hope that you have a blessed day. Signing out.